then I also realized that something that had an even bigger impact on my understanding of love, how I showed it, and the ways in which I was willing to receive it and give it, was how it was modeled to me throughout my childhood. Yeah, I used to think that I need to change who I am, how I present myself, how I dress to get a man's attention, to get his approval, but that isn't true. It's the furthest thing from the truth. The right guy with the right intentions will be looking at your character first. And of course, what attracts us to each other the first time, a lot of the time, is looks, right? It's your face, it's your body, and that's normal. We are human beings. We are human beings. That is completely normal. But as you spend time with a person, that person's going to be looking at how you treat people and how you make them feel. He's going to be looking at your ability to connect with yourself and stay true to who you are, not losing yourself just because of he has now come into your life. Don't make the red flags green. They are not green, they are red. Please, I'm begging you. Do not put yourself through suffering like that. Do not beg someone to act right. Do not beg someone to stay. Do not beg someone for commitment. If it's not happening, it's just not. We are human beings. We are bound to make mistakes. We are bound to mess up. But the way that this speaks of love is that it says you do not have pride leading you. You're not being led by ego. You aren't being led by anger or evil or hatred or bitterness. You are being led by being caring and loving and genuine, and you want to get better at it, and you want to do better by you, by the other person, by the other people around you. Hi community, welcome back to A Cupful. Thank you so much for joining me. This is the final episode of this edition of the Love series. I have really enjoyed researching, preparing for, and recording these episodes. So thank you so much for being here. If you have been listening from the beginning, and when I say the beginning, I mean the beginning of this love series, thank you. But also if you've been listening to this podcast, whether it be from the beginning, whether the middle, whether you just started listening, you just came across it, thank you so much for being here. In this week's episode, we are going to be talking about romantic love. So there has been a sequence to the episodes. I started with self-love, and then I got into love and friendship, and now I am getting into the love that we all know about, that we all hear about, that we all see on TV, on social media, in person, conversations around love. I'm sure you've had conversations around love, about love, with your friends, with family, if you are in a relationship with your partner, your boyfriend, your girlfriend. So yeah, I really wanted to get into this, and I'm really looking forward to talking about it, because I think although we have conversations and we talk about it and we're exposed to it, sometimes there are some things that are not spoken on enough, and I just wanted to share what I've learned. I wanted to share what I've found on the internet, some facts, some research, and yeah, just reflect a little bit as well on my own journey, my own experiences with romantic love. So between my early 20s and now, my idea and perspective of romantic love has changed so much, obviously, because I have grown and I have changed and I have a different understanding of things in comparison to when I was in my much earlier 20s. I used to be heavily influenced by romantic comedies. I'm a 90s kid, so romantic comedies were always the moment for me when it came to love and the kind of love story I wanted for myself. Movies from the late 90s, the early 2000s, the mid 2000s, those were some really good romantic movies, rom-coms, romantic dramas, The Notebook. Oh my goodness, what else? The Notebook is one of my favorite romantic dramas. It's a romantic drama. It's not a rom-com. And what else? Oh, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. I don't think that was very, very healthy. I'm not sure if that was the healthiest portrayal of what a healthy love should look like. But it was an enjoyable movie nonetheless. I really, really enjoyed it. I've watched it so many times, and there are so many other movies I could really go on. But yeah, I would watch movies like that and I'd be like, I want a love story like that, and where I end up with my man, with my person, even if it means meeting them like that, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I was for a very long time influenced by the movies that I was watching on TV, social media as well, and social media commentary and what other people's relationships look like from the outside. That also had an impact, and that actually had an impact from when I was in university until maybe a year ago, until yeah, maybe a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, because the light bulb only went on then. But then I also realized that something that had an even bigger impact on my understanding of love, how I showed it, and the ways in which I was willing to receive it and give it, was how it was modeled to me throughout my childhood. And I will get back to that. I'm going to get back to that a little bit later on in the episode. But overall, I've come such a long way with what love is to me, specifically in the romantic sense. And to get here I went through quite a lot. It's not hectic. It's not hectic. Let me not be dramatic. It's not a lot where I've been like in and out of relationships and I've just been through the mostest, but I have experienced enough to be able to say that. And sometimes it was because of the choices I made, and sometimes it was because of circumstances beyond my control. But I'm going to take full responsibility and say a lot of it was because of the choices I've made. So, yeah, I've had my fair share of going through romantic encounters, and I am grateful that I have learned everything that I have learned. But on the other hand, I do wish I'd made better choices. So, yeah, just for a bit of a backstory, some context, I was a really late bloomer, and I'm not sure if I like that term. I don't like that phrase. I don't like that term. But yeah, I was a really late bloomer. That's the only English term or phrase that I can think of to describe this. I didn't start dating until I got to university. I had not even had my first kiss until then, and it really had not bothered me until I got into the thick of things, the thick of the university experience, the thick of being in that space. And then I started feeling insecure about it. So when I got to university, I felt different as it was and out of place as it was. And then I started to realize and just started to understand that other people had started exploring way before me in high school already. So people had either already had boyfriends, or they had boyfriends and they'd broken up with them, or they were in relationships. And when I look back now, I wish I had someone to talk me out of those thoughts and feelings, because I really didn't know any better. In your early 20s, your early to mid 20s, everything just feels like a trial. Actually, even now, it's not necessarily a trial now, but you are still trying to figure certain things out. I am still trying to figure certain things out. So it doesn't mean that when you get to your late 20s, everything is all good, hunky dory, you've got a grip on everything. That's not the case, but you are a lot more mature, and you do realize that there are some choices that you need to be extra careful with when you make them. So I have a better understanding now. I didn't have a better understanding then, and I do wish I had someone to talk to, someone who was a little bit older, who had experienced that, and who would be able to say, don't really give attention to those thoughts, don't give attention to those feelings, because it's just that. It's just a feeling, it's just thoughts, they will pass. But if you make that decision and you choose to step into this space, into doing this thing, you're opening a door that you might not be able to close. So, yeah, I ended up giving my time to interactions and people that I just shouldn't have. And as much as I have regrets, quite a few of them, I am incredibly grateful for the lessons I have learned, including that true freedom is not me being able to get with whoever, whenever I want to, or wearing revealing clothes, or having a roster, or wearing a ton of makeup to cover up my acne scars. True freedom is knowing exactly who I am and embracing it, enjoying my uniqueness and being completely secure with how I look, knowing that who I am, my character, values, morals, and my fun and funny personality is what matters far more than my physical looks, you know? True freedom for me now is knowing how to love myself right and not being afraid or uncomfortable to be clear and honest about how I expect that from a man. So, yeah, I used to think that I need to change who I am, how I present myself, how I dress to get a man's attention, to get his approval. But that isn't true. It's the furthest thing from the truth. The right guy with the right intentions will be looking at your character first. I just want to let my younger sisters know, the girls in their earlier 20s, in your mid 20s, even women in their late 20s, if you are listening to this and in your late 20s and you are looking to get into a relationship, you are hoping to meet someone, please just remember that a mature guy, the guy for you also, he is going to be looking at the inside a lot more than he will be looking on the outside. And of course, what attracts us to each other the first time, a lot of the time, is looks, right? It's your face, it's your body, and that's normal. We are human being. We are human beings. That is completely normal. But as you spend time with a person, that person's going to be looking at how you treat people and how you make them feel. He's going to be looking at your ability to connect with yourself and stay true to who you are, not losing yourself just because of he has now come into your life. And something else that I absolutely know for sure now that I've come to my senses. I say I've come to my senses because I had a period in my life, I had a phase in my university days. I had a period. I had a period when I was a very serious feminist, and that was like in the last 3 years of my university career. And I thought that I just didn't need a man. I thought, but that was also a personal projection. I think that at the time that, not even I think that, I know that at the time that I had really fallen into or stepped into feminism, I'm not one anymore. So, yeah, the light bulb has gone off for me. I am not one anymore, but, and that's not the episode for this. But when I was a feminist back then, I used to really think I'd be fine on my own, and that freedom was being able to show up for myself, still is, but that I didn't need a man. I don't need a man. Or I thought that I'd be fine if I didn't have a partner, or even if someone decided to walk out of my life, I'd be fine. All I need is myself. That's not true. We all need someone. We all need companionship. Okay, maybe not all. Some people choose to lead single lives forever, and some people, that's their calling. There were people in the Bible who were called to be single forever, but some people are not, and those people will need another person. So I eventually let that go. I know that on the most part, human beings are meant to share really deep and meaningful connections together. And one beautiful way to experience that is through romantic love. And I love love. I think it's really beautiful. I'm grateful that I can love. I'm grateful that I can receive love. And I just think that it's such a beautiful thing to be able to have, to experience, to be a part of, that kind of a partnership where you share, grow, pour into love together with another person. So yeah, I did some research and I found a really interesting article, and it breaks down the three components um, of love, which are intimacy, passion, and commitment. And so these three components, they interact with each other to form several versions of love and can fluctuate over time. So intimacy features feelings of closeness, connectedness, and bondedness. And then passion revolves around feelings and desires that lead to physical attraction, romance, and that sexual connection. And then commitment is defined by feelings that motivate someone to stick with their partner and move towards shared goals. And then there's another breakdown, the types of love. And there is a psychologist who has worked in the psychology field, or rather a psychotherapist who has worked in the field for more than 25 years, and she specialized in helping couples with their romantic relationships for more than a decade. Dr. Marnie Fuhrman, she breaks down these types of love. So she explains the various versions of love across infatuation, empty love, romantic love, compassionate love, fatuous love, and consummate love. And infatuation is the beginning phase of a relationship, and that's characterized by lust and passion. So the initial infatuation is so powerful that some people end up what she calls carrying a torch for one another, even though they don't know if they have what it takes for a sustainable, deeper, and lasting love. And then empty love involves commitment without passion or intimacy. So Dr. Fuhrman says at times a strong love deteriorates into empty love. And then romantic love bonds people emotionally through intimacy and physical passion. And then compassionate love is an intimate but non-passionate sort of love. Fatuous love is a committed relationship driven by passion. Fatuous love is without the stabilizing influence of intimacy. So then she goes on to explain or gives an example of celebrity marriages who seem to marry impulsively, and sadly or unfortunately such marriages do not last. And lastly, consummate love. It is the total form of love and represents an ideal relationship. So yeah, that's what I found to be really, really interesting, that you can break down and identify the types of love. Yeah, I'd never come across anything like that. So that was quite interesting. And then we get into the phases of romantic love. So don't forget that we have gone over the three components of love, and then we went over and broke down the types of love, and now we are going to go into the phases of romantic love. So the first one is limerence. The first time I heard about limerence was on a TikTok video, and the psychologist was talking about how limerence is often a stage that some people don't move on from. They stay in it. They don't want to face the reality of the situation that they're in, or the traits that their partner exhibits, the red flags. So they kind of create and keep a positive image of their partner. So this initial stage involves falling in love. It's like walking into paradise, this wonderful feeling. You feel amazing. And this is also fueled by lust. And couples are like very touchy-feely, and they ask each other a lot of questions, and they get to know each other. I want to say I've had an experience before where I've experienced, there is a word and I keep forgetting. I've experienced breadcrumbing in the limerence stage or towards the end of it. I don't know if it ever came to an end. But then there is another word where someone overcompensates in the beginning and they're like really pouring into the relationship, and then it stops. And then it just stops. And in the past, I would find myself making excuses and saying, oh, this person's busy, or this person is just like going through a tough time. Maybe that's why they aren't able to be present. And that's why the video that I saw on TikTok made so much sense, because whenever I had been in the limerence stage, I would never get out of it. So it's almost as if I was forcing something to be that wasn't. Like, I could see a person's red flags, I could see the incompatibilities. They would arise, but I kind of wouldn't want to pay attention to them because I wanted to be loved really badly, and I wanted to be wanted so badly. And I also just want to add that in the past, some of the poor interactions I've had, the poor romantic interactions I've had, whether it was going on a few dates or just being with someone who just did not want to put a name to the relationship. They didn't want to say, you are my girlfriend, or I'm not really willing to go down that road, where it was just like being stuck in an in-between. I was still fine with that. I wanted to be wanted. I wanted to be seen and heard and loved. So, yes, I say all of that to say that that's what limerence is. There's a lot of physical attraction, and that can really crowd out the logic and rational thought. And yeah, just kind of overlook the red flags as well and the incompatibilities. The second phase is trust. When people try to figure out whether they can trust their partner, they work to determine whether their new partner will put them first, be faithful, and make smart decisions. So this is the honeymoon phase is done. This is in a healthy relationship, in a healthy dynamic. You've moved from the limerence. Now things are getting real. There are real things to deal with. And you are now going to give yourself a chance to see, is this someone that I can trust? Is this someone that I can work with? Some people, according to the research that I've done, some couples end up in a withdraw or pursue situation or pattern of interaction. One partner pushes to work out differences while another avoids conflict. This negative cycle can become very escalated in couples that can't hold a safe and empathetic space for challenging discussions and a way to self-regulate and co-regulate their emotions. And this is where I'm going to say, this is why it's important to be self-aware enough to work on yourself, because when you are with another person, you aren't just going to have to self-regulate, you're going to have to co-regulate with them, their emotions, that is. You are responsible for how you choose to react in an argument, how you choose to react to your partner needing your love and support, and you need to be aware enough of your weaknesses and work on them. If you're someone that isn't really in touch with their emotions, or you struggle with emotional intelligence, then that's something that you're going to have to work on. And you can work on these things in a relationship, but it's also even better that when you are single and you aren't with anyone, that you really make an effort and you put in the time to understand what's going on the inside of you, to understand what is the cause of your short temper, or what is the thing that makes you impatient, or what is the thing that you're struggling with that doesn't give you a chance, or where you can't really interact with another person without exploding or being manipulative or being selfish and not considering the other person's feelings. So yeah, I recommend really putting in the effort, because if you don't, you probably are going to struggle when it comes to having to share your time, your space, yourself with another person, and that will put a heavy weight on the relationship. And I speak from experience. The last phase is commitment. If a couple experiences success in the trust phase, they move to this final phase when they decide whether their new partner is their best life choice. People usually stop thinking about other people, other potential partners. They know that this is the green grass, and it will only get greener if they water it. So yeah, I just want to add here that don't force something that you see not coming together to come together because you want to be in a relationship and you want all of these stages to happen. These stages are going to happen organically. Is organically the right word? Maybe not organically. It's going to happen with two people that are willing, that want to be together. You can't force anyone to do anything that they don't want to do. And that's why you shouldn't waste your time when you can see that a person is clearly not interested here and they are not willing to put in the work. Relationships are a commitment. It is something that you must put an effort into, or else it won't work out. And it's not hard work. Relationships are work, but it's not hard work. And when it starts being hard work and you feel like you're at a job that you don't like, girl, no, just leave it alone. There is absolutely no way that you have to be begging someone to act right or to be interested in you. There are also way too many people on this earth, on this beautiful God-given earth that we live in. And there is definitely another truth, that the Lord does not want you to suffer. Do not put yourself through suffering like that. Do not beg someone to act right. Do not beg someone to stay. Do not beg someone for commitment. If it's not happening, it's just not. Okay. Why does romantic love matter in a healthy relationship? Why? Romantic love plays a very important role in healthy relationships. It motivates people to perform actions that convey affection, thoughtfulness, adoration. Over time, these actions are going to foster connection, intimacy, and a secure attachment bond. You need that vulnerability. You need to put in that effort, building emotional safety and trust as well. The things that we end up doing for the people that we care about, that's going to come from that connection, that intimacy. And it also just ends up being something that isn't something that you have to remind yourself to do. It becomes a normal thing that you do. You make dinner for your partner, you pick up their favorite fruit when it's in season, you buy them flowers, you go hiking with them, you cook with them. Those kinds of things, it all matters. And those things play a role, they play a part. Making that effort plays a role in sustaining that love and building the relationship confidence. Those frequent acts that are also showing who you are, the doing where you are showing your partner that you're here, you care for them, you're committed, and you want this just as much as they want that. And it's the small little things, it's the small little acts. It was never the huge things for me or the grand gestures for me. Buying me a handbag or paying for my hair, for example, or taking me to a 5-star hotel. Those would never be things for me that are the things that matter the most. It's the fact that you are making an effort, you've taken the time to pay attention, you care enough to understand that getting a making a cup of tea for me makes me really, really happy, or cooking me a meal makes me really happy. It makes me feel cared for, and it shows that you are attentive. You've cooked something that I really like, or telling me that you're proud of me, telling me that you appreciate me, that you love me. Those little things, those things that don't take you 100 years to do, or that don't take a lot of effort. Those little things just takes a minute. Those things really do add to the relationship. They add to a person knowing that they can trust you, that they can rely on you, and that they know that you're willing, and that you just care. You know what I mean? So it's so true. Those little acts, those frequent little acts. So at the end of last year, a friend of mine borrowed me a book on attachment styles from a romantic perspective, and it was so helpful, and the information really helped me understand some of the ways in which I was showing up in previous romantic interactions and in my previous relationship. And it really helped me understand why I was attracted to certain traits when it came to men. And yeah, it also helped with working through some of the things that I was really struggling with, that I just couldn't make sense of. So I thought to incorporate it into this episode and just talk about it a little bit and explain what informs another part, or something that informs how you show up in your romantic relationships: attachment styles. So, attachment theory was developed in order to better understand how infants attach to their caregivers and how that impacts the way they navigate relationships in their younger years. And over time, attachment theory has also been used to understand how people build and maintain relationships as adults. So, Elizabeth Earnshaw, who is a licensed marriage family therapist and relationship expert, and she's also an author, she breaks it down really well. So, there are two main attachment styles. Secure attachment refers to feeling secure in the way you relate to others. Earnshaw also explains this is established when a young child has a secure relationship with at least one primary caregiver who is predictable and reliable. So people with secure attachment tend to be better at setting boundaries and respecting the boundaries of others, and they have higher self-esteem and confidence. Within relationships, they tend to be more likely to seek out social support, maintain long-term relationships, and share their feelings with others. So they're very independent people, but not from the perspective of lack or of not being able to trust anyone, but because of they have always had support, and that support gave them an opportunity to establish their own independence and still be able to rely on other people, but also be able to rely on themselves. And then insecure attachment, on the other hand, is if a child couldn't rely on at least one caregiver, they will then develop the insecure attachment style, which Dr. Earnshaw describes as feeling anxious about relationships. And I have been there. I have been there. So as a result, people with this attachment style will use coping skills that were once effective in dealing with anxiety but aren't anymore. So we might find ourselves, Earnshaw says that we might find ourselves navigating adult romantic relationships with a lot of anxiety, which is very true. And that anxiety might manifest in responding to any sense of distance by pursuing a partner, or responding to any attempts at closeness by avoiding the partner. I'm healing from insecure attachment, and that's something that I had always done a lot in previous romantic interactions. I would pursue a partner a lot, and a lot of people that are insecure are drawn to people that have got avoidant attachments. And read that in the book that I was talking about. I am actually going to add the link in the description box of whichever listening platform that you're listening from. If you are not in South Africa, not based in South Africa, not based on the African continent, then I think all you need to do is type in the title of the book, and hopefully you can find it at your nearest bookstore, or maybe even on Amazon. But the link that I'm going to leave is for Takealot, which is a e-commerce company that only delivers in South Africa, according to my knowledge, or the African continent. I stand corrected. But yeah, I'll also put the title of the book in the description box. So yeah, I was drawn to people with avoidant attachments. And yeah, let me explain what avoidant, or go into other attachment styles. So the 3 attachment styles are insecure attachment. The 3 insecure attachment styles are avoidant, ambivalent, and disorganized. Avoidant attachment is usually people that get uncomfortable with intimacy. So they pull away from their partner to help soothe themselves. Avoidant people tend to worry that their autonomy will be taken away when they get too close. And they also do not know if they can truly rely on people to be there for them. So these are the kinds of people that might possibly, at the beginning of a romantic relationship, really be very loving, very caring, very affectionate. And then when you start getting really, really close, then they start to pull back. And a lot of the times, this is my experience anyways, people that have avoidant attachment, the avoidant attachment style, there isn't anything that you can do to make them less uncomfortable. This is something that stems from their childhood, and these are issues that they need to resolve, probably by getting professional help or by being really committed and intentional about working through it. And they also need to know that they have the avoidant attachment style, and they need to acknowledge it. So it doesn't matter how hard you try to get close to them, they're still going to push back. And it doesn't mean that it's because that there's something wrong with you. It just means that they have this that they need to work through. So yeah, I've seen also videos where psychologists caution people from trying to fix a person with an avoidant attachment, or trying to take them on as a project. This is something that stems from their childhood, and this is something that they need professional assistance with to work through. So yeah, ambivalent attachment is often referred to as the anxious attachment style, which is characterized by feeling preoccupied with relationships. So the pull toward relationships is based on underlying anxiety, differing from secure individuals who are pulled towards relationships through an underlying sense of safety. The preoccupation can create scenarios where the ambivalent partner pursues the other partner in ways that harm the relationship. And then lastly, disorganized attachment is a mixture of the avoidant and ambivalent attachment style. Sometimes the partner pulls away and sometimes they pursue. So there is a way to work through this. There is a way to solve it. It's not like you're stuck with it forever. If you have identified that you have one of the insecure attachment styles, it is something that you can correct. So the first thing that you need to do is identify your anxieties and the underlying reason for why you are either preoccupied with relationships or tend to avoid them. It could be that you're scared of being abandoned, or you worry about losing your independence, or you fear relying on other people. And what I really found to be helpful at the beginning, even before I started going to therapy, is to ask yourself why that is. And asking yourself questions will be uncomfortable, because then you need to answer them, but you need to ask yourself those questions so that you can get to the bottom of why this is happening, why you tend to behave this way, or what is causing you to behave this way. And the professional help, or the professional aspect of things, also really helped me, because sometimes whatever happened in your childhood, whatever happened growing up, might be something you've closed off, or you've tried to erase from your memory. So a professional will ask you questions that will help you peel back those layers. And again, if you're someone that has access to therapy, you can afford it, and you are open to exploring it, I really do recommend it. I know that it is a privilege. Not everyone has access to it, and not everyone can afford it. The next thing is to develop new forms of self-soothing. So if you are preoccupied, you might currently self-soothe the anxiety you feel by texting your partner a lot when you feel worried. Instead, work on taking a break and self-soothing by journaling, breathing, or taking a walk. If you are an avoidant, you might self-soothe by withdrawing from the relationship. Instead, work on identifying your feelings and sharing them with a safe person. Ultimately, changing your attachment style will partially involve you learning to navigate your anxiety, or just these feelings of wanting to withdraw. You have to just go through it and feel it. You just have to. There is no other way around it. Another thing that I really appreciated also, that the book that I read spoke about, is looking to have secure role models. So it could be someone that you know well, or it could be a character on TV, but it's important to have a community of people in your mind, in person, who are securely attached. And the psychologists in the book, because it's 2 or 3 psychologists that wrote the book together, they were saying the very same thing, that what you choose to consume, whatever it is on social media, a series, a movie, that will have an impact, and you're looking for things that are going to reinforce security, or that secureness. So you need to be intentional about it. For example, I stopped consuming content from, especially relationship content, relationship advice, relationship commentary, from people that were just not very secure, that it was very evident that they aren't coming from a place of feeling secure, but it is their insecurities that are a driving force in their life. So on TikTok there's so much commentary, but for example, someone that is constantly talking about how you need to make sure that your hair's always done, your nails are always done, you know how to apply strip lashes, or you're always getting your lashes done, that you need to present yourself a certain way for you to be attractive to men or to a man. I absolutely do not consume content like that. I just feel like that is driven by a lot of insecurity, and people, or women, or whatever self-certified relationship gurus that are always talking about looks, and that just where the perspective is very vain and egotistical. I'm really not looking to consume that kind of stuff. I want to hear from people that are very secure, and you can tell when someone is secure. You can tell. So yes, I say all of that to say, be intentional about looking for secure role models. Attachment styles literally speak to what I want to get into next. Your childhood experiences and what you grow, or what you saw growing up, will affect how you show up in romantic relationships. If communication was not modeled in healthy manners, it will affect how you communicate with your partner. If love and affection were not openly modeled, you will probably not know how to reciprocate it. Being touchy-feely, saying I love you to your partner, or saying I love you back, will probably be very challenging. If vulnerability and healthy confrontation were not the norm in your household, or perhaps specifically directed to you, it was lacking, then you will have a hard time showing that to your partner. Maybe you'll withdraw or isolate yourself in a disagreement, or you'll scream and shout and lose your temper when you're not getting your way. Again, this goes back to that lack of emotional regulation, and that being something that you do need to work on, because you're now going to have to self-regulate when you are in a relationship, and you're going to have to co-regulate. So, being sympathetic towards your partner, being able to be patient with them and be kind with them, and be reassuring, and not make a moment or a situation about how you are feeling. And in relationships there is a lot of that, of being able to speak to yourself, calm down, and listen to what the other person is saying. And even when you don't agree with them, or even when they are making you uncomfortable, you are still going to need to sit through what they are saying and listen, not explode, not be impatient, not be rude. So you need to be able to regulate your feelings, regulate your emotions. And I will always be sympathetic towards adults that genuinely don't know any better, because no one has ever given them or shown them the tools and resources they need to apply in life. I cannot imagine or believe that anyone wants to be in a place where they just do not know how to show up properly in their romantic relationship. So please don't beat yourself up. What you do need to do, though, is work on those things. You have to want that enough for yourself and for your relationship if you are in one, or for your future relationship if you want to get into one. Because as much as a lack of having certain behaviors taught and modeled to you explains how you show up in your relationship, it doesn't make it right. So there is an explanation, but it's also not an excuse. You get what I'm saying? Now, because I've been there, where I battled with being able to express myself in healthy ways and just deal with things like disappointment and conflict and effective communication, I understand that it is not easy to unlearn and relearn certain patterns and behaviors, but it is possible. And like I said, you have to want it. And I'm still in the learning phase. I believe that we learn every day until we breathe our last breath as human beings, so it never really comes to an end. But it gets easier when you are open to it. When someone says to you, "You really hurt me, you've made me uncomfortable," when you have become more open to something, you're not going to get defensive. You're going to listen to their point of view, and you're going to be sympathetic, and then you're going to apologize. And that is something that you learn to do over time. That comes from opening yourself up to it, especially if it's not something that you're used to. You grew up in a home where apologizing to each other, that was not a thing. Your parents never apologized to you after they hurt you, or they just never gave you the time of day to speak your mind. You were not allowed to express yourself. Your feelings didn't matter. You never heard "I love you." You never got hugs, or it was just like very occasional, and it was not very intimate, and you didn't feel loved or cared for. It's going to be hard, but it's also very possible, especially if you're someone that wants love and that wants a relationship and that wants it to be healthy. You're going to have to put in the work. You are going to have to put in the work. I grew up in a home with both parents, and with the utmost respect to both my mom and dad, they did not model healthy love to me as a couple. They did what they could with what they had, and I do appreciate that, and I'm really grateful for that, especially my mom. And I admire her so much, because being a parent must be scary. Getting into a companionship, partnership with someone who you don't know like that. You know them, but you just didn't grow up with them, and now you have to do life with them. That must be a lot. And yeah, it takes a lot of courage. So I'm really proud of my mom for that. But what's true is that I definitely didn't know what healthy was, and it showed itself to me as an adult. And it's something that I've had to work on and work through. It has showed itself in friendship. It has showed itself a lot in romantic encounters, in my previous relationship. And if there's one thing that will humble you and indicate that there is a lack of self-awareness, and that there's like this huge gap that you maybe didn't know about, then it's a romantic relationship, especially if it is long. the mirror gets bigger and bigger and really reflects a lot that you either didn't know or that you were trying to ignore or avoid. So yeah, I'm grateful that I've reached a point where I'm a lot more open, and I'm unlearning a lot of things, and I'm working through a lot of things, and I've learned to forgive myself for a lot of things that have happened, some choices that I made when I didn't know any better. And I'm grateful for the relationship that I have with my mom and the conversations that we can have, because she wants her kids to not go through the same things she has. She doesn't want them to make the same mistakes. So just having that open communication it's good. And also just understanding and seeing my mom as a human being first and not my mother first has really been helpful. It has taken away this incredibly heavy expectation that I had of her and that I had always subconsciously put on her. So, yeah, grateful for that. And again, these are things that we can work through. They've happened also. We can't change the past, but we can definitely change what we're going to do in the future. So, yeah, I was actually I'm really grateful for that. I was in an almost 3-year relationship, and it ended late last year, and I learned so much throughout the relationship, even when it ended. And for real, it took me right off of my high horse, because I was always of the belief, and I just thought that I knew what I was doing and that my idea of love was healthy, which was false. My anxious attachment became a serious problem, and a part of me expected my ex-boyfriend to be unconditionally understanding and accommodating. I know now that there was also a part of me that thought that a romantic relationship would help me overcome the things I needed to overcome on my own. I also thought that I was self-aware, but man, oh man, won't a romantic relationship challenge that stance? And it did that for me. But overall, I'm really grateful for that relationship and for my ex and the role that he played in my life. The whole entire experience, the whole entire relationship taught me so much, and it also gave me the courage to deal with the things I had been running from. It ending played a significant role in me getting right with myself and God as well. So, yeah, I am in the place where I'm like looking back now, I'm reflecting, and I'm like, you know what? There is so much that I've learned, and there's so much that I'm grateful for, and I appreciate that the experience has shaped me and changed me in the ways that it has. And so yeah, upon reflecting, I also wanted to share some lessons. In the name of reflecting, I wanted to share some lessons that I have learned. The first thing is that what works for you won't work for everyone, and that's okay. And that's why it's important to be content with the fact that what you are doing is fine. It works for you. You don't need to bother yourself or worry yourself about what another person is doing. What they want is what they want, and what you want is what you want. So stop looking outside at other people's relationships on social media for what other people are doing. It's just going to confuse you, and it's going to also take away from the relationship that you're in or the relationship that you want to get into. The second thing is God needs to come first before you pursue a relationship. You have to pursue him first, especially if you are looking to be in a relationship with one person forever. I also speak for myself when I say that the kind of wisdom and understanding that comes from being in a serious relationship with God first will really help when you have to apply yourself in a romantic relationship. And I can speak so confidently because I have been there, where I was in a romantic relationship from a very selfish perspective. Another thing that happens when God is leading you and you're not being led by your flesh or your own worldly desires or your own ways is that you approach a relationship, any relationship really, a lot more selflessly. It's not about what you're going to get. It's not about what you want all the time. It's about playing your role as a servant of the Lord. It's about serving the other person just as much as they would be serving you. Another thing is to look at character first and looks and money and access and power second or even last. I'm not saying that those things are insignificant, but I am also saying that they are not that important, unless of course you're someone who's driven by material and by constantly satisfying your flesh and by very selfish desires and ways. Then maybe that's something that will matter to you. But if you are looking to be in a relationship that's going to be solid and that is not going to be held up by money and how much access and power a person has, then it's important to look at their character first. Life is going to happen. Remember, you are going to have to move from limerence to trust, and you are not going to be able to establish trust with a person by how much money they give you or how much money they spend on you or how much access they have or how much power they have. When life gets serious and you have a moment or a chapter in your life where you are struggling, it could be financially, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, will this person be able to support you? Will they be able to show up for you? Do they have a solid character that will encourage them or that will result in them wanting to be there, wanting to play an important role in making sure that you're okay? You know what I'm saying? Because money's not going to be able to support you the way that a person who is honest and kind and loving and caring and committed will be able to do for you. So I'm not saying that money doesn't matter. I'm really not saying that, but don't put so much weight on it that you forget to look at a person's character. Money is important. We live in the world, but it's also not the most important aspect or the most important thing that you should be looking at when you are looking for a partner. Know what you want. Very, very important. Please know what you want. Don't want what other people want, because wanting what other people want is pointless. Like, what is even motivating that? And it just makes no sense, you know? I think we should be very careful about understanding that we need to be our own people. We're not forced to want what people on TikTok or Instagram want or what they're doing. And when you know what you want, you're also not going to be willing to just go with whatever. You have a stance, you have a standpoint. Another thing is to be kind and look to be with a kind person. Kindness is such an important thing to look for in a person. It's going to show up in every part of the relationship. When you're having arguments, when you are experiencing a win, when you have been together for long and things just don't feel like they did at the beginning, when you have given birth and your body changes, when you are having a tough time, maybe financially, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, this is something that's going to show up all the time. And if you are not with a kind person, it will hurt you. It's going to hurt you. You don't want to be with a person who doesn't know how to handle you, or doesn't know how to treat you with care, who just isn't interested in even being good to you. And this is just really such an important thing. The other thing is to treat yourself with love, compassion, and kindness, and expect the very same things from your partner. I spoke about it in the self-love episode. You gotta love yourself. You gotta be good to yourself. You gotta set that standard. And if there is someone that wants to come into your life and is not able to get up to that level, then the door is where they need to go. They need to walk out. There is no space for them. And you will be able to do that when you've established that within yourself and you're willing to do that for yourself. So please, that's very, very important. Another extremely important thing is to not avoid the red flags. Please don't overlook them. Please don't overlook things like incompatibility. I've said it already. There are so many men that are walking this earth, this here green earth, this beautiful earth. Don't stay with someone who is, you're clearly not going to be, it's not going to work. There's no compatibility. Don't do it. Don't make the red flags green. They are not green. They are red. Please, I'm begging you. Please. I also need you to remember that a man that loves and respects you won't ask you to betray yourself, and he most certainly won't betray you. He's not going to cheat on you. He will not lie to you. He will not lie to you, okay? I don't believe that all men cheat. I don't believe that all men are bad or trash. I am most certainly not of the belief that all men are violent, that they feel entitled to women's bodies and are just empty vessels. There are lots of really lovely men out there. Honest, hardworking, committed, loving, caring, kind, self-aware men who would actually love to play roles such as boyfriend and eventually husband and father. They exist for sure, but they are also very rare to find, and they hold themselves to a really high standard. And so if you're looking to be with a man like that, you've got to work on yourself and hold yourself to just as high of a standard. And that's really it. That's it. That's it. They exist, but they're rare. And yeah, you've just got to not settle and not be willing to lower your standards. Another thing is that when a man knows he knows, a mature man anyways, and by that I mean he knows really early whether you are his wife or whether you will not make the cut. And this isn't just me saying whatever, it's something I've heard so many men say, men I've spoken to, videos I've watched of men doing interviews, men on podcasts. They say that they know. Men I've met at gatherings, they just do. I also actually found a video where preacher, author, and businesswoman Jackie Hill Perry speaks on it. So please listen to this.
Fun fact. Men, mature men, they know what they want. They do. Not every man knows a lot of things. You know, some of them don't know how to put the cat back on the milk. Some of them don't know how to eat like a grown-up. They grabbing the spoon like a Flintstone. You got a few of them that don't even know how to wash their butt properly. You look at the boxers and it's last week's boo-boo left on there. But a mature man, they know when somebody their wife. So if you've been waiting on this ninja, Ninja, you've been waiting on him for 10 years, don't do your fallopian tubes like that. Your uterus doesn't deserve that. You understand what like you just giving your whole reproductive system over to somebody with a spirit of confusion. And perhaps children ain't even the Lord's will for you, but I know what his will is for his daughters to not be led astray by these confused Jodies. Baby boy reference. So yeah. If you've been waiting 10 years for him to get on his knee, it's just not gonna happen. So just move along. Move along.
So yeah, it's very simple for men. They are very straightforward people. He knows what he wants, and when he wants you, his actions will prove it, and he won't do anything to jeopardize that. It is as straightforward as it sounds. So there's no need to make excuses for any man. You won't need to compete with anyone for him. He won't make you question your importance or place in his life. None of that. So please, my dear sisters, don't waste your time on someone who wants to play games and not be serious, especially if you know that you want something serious. There are so many men out there who are serious and who won't want to play around with your heart. Take yourself seriously and let go of anything that isn't that. Take yourself seriously. That's something that I wish that someone had told me a long time ago, to take myself seriously and to let go and release anything that is not that. When I was in my early 20s, I used to think that good men just don't exist, which was obviously a personal projection of my own experiences. But what I did not understand at the time was that I was going to attract a man who would mirror where I was with myself or how I felt about myself. And that I did. Now that I no longer blame other people for my choices and I have a much better understanding of things, I understand the importance of self-awareness, self-development, and being intentional about it. I also understand that I cannot possibly want to end up with the world's most incredible man without putting in the time and effort and intention into becoming better too. Because that man probably worked to get there. He probably put in a lot of effort. If he's self-aware enough, if he's honest and good and an upstanding man of the community, of the society, then he put in the effort. And it's just a bit delusional. I just want to say that it is a bit delulu to think that you're going to end up with this incredible person or this like really lovely person, but you are not interested in doing any of the work on yourself. And I'm not saying lose your mind, make it a project where you're like, oh, this is project transform me and I'm going to work so hard and I'm going to be obsessed about it. That's not what I'm saying. But you do have to put in the effort and you do have to put in the work and you have to be aware of yourself and of your flaws because we all have them. And that's just why I have a problem with some of the sentiments that I come across on social media. I don't know. I don't like that some of the suggestions that are made in a lot of this discourse is that women get to kind of just like show up and not need to work on their emotional, mental, and spiritual maturity, and they just need to show up, and a man needs to be grateful for that. If that man has done the work, then my sister, you must also do the work. If that woman has done the work, then my brother, you must also do the work. Make an effort. Come on, we gotta make an effort. We gotta make an effort. Grand gestures is not what makes up the substance of a relationship. Caring more about aesthetics than about doing the actual work in the relationship is not the thing that's gonna hold the relationship together. Being in a private relationship but wanting to share every single thing about the relationship with the public through social media is not going to hold your relationship up. So, yeah. Yeah. Just, I think we just gotta be a little bit more thoughtful. You want the good thing, you've got to work for the good thing. You've got to be serious about working for the good thing. You've got to be real about working for the good thing. There's something else that I no longer believe in, and that's that you have to be completely healed and thriving to be in a relationship. That's absolutely false. I said it when I was going through the attachment styles that you can work on yourself and you can work on correcting certain things when you are in a relationship, but that also means full transparency and vulnerability with your partner and saying, this is where I'm at, this is what I'm struggling with. Relationships are, after all, long ones, good ones, healthy ones. They will be filled with the challenges. And I ain't talking about cheating. And I'm definitely not talking about lying and stealing and being violent towards each other. Those are not challenges. That's just not good. It's toxic. But there will be things like being with someone who's still working through their childhood trauma, being with someone who doesn't know how to navigate certain things. And we are there to encourage each other, to support one another. And that's why I say relationships are about serving each other. So, full healing, complete healing does not exist. Sometimes you just overcome certain things, and sometimes you learn to live with them. Sometimes the scar's just going to be there forever. It's just going to, you'll be able to see it. But yeah, that's why self-awareness is important. And it's, if you want a romantic relationship, or if you want the relationship that you are in to get stronger, you've got to be aware of yourself, of your strengths, of your weaknesses, and so forth. So yeah, what is the absolute truth? What is 100% something that I agree with is something in the book of Corinthians, 1 Corinthians chapter 13 verses 4 to 8 specifically, and it says, love suffers long and is kind. Love does not envy, it does not parade itself, it is not puffed up, it does not behave rudely, it does not seek its own, it is not provoked, thinks no evil, does not rejoice in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth, bears all things, believes in all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails, and I couldn't agree more. We are human beings. We are bound to make mistakes. We are bound to mess up. But the way that this speaks of love is that it says you do not have pride leading you. You're not being led by ego. You aren't being led by anger or evil or hatred or bitterness. You are being led by being caring and loving and genuine and you want to get better at it, and you want to do better by you, by the other person, by the other people around you. And so you are willing to say you're sorry once you've made mistakes, to correct the things that you do wrong, to be intentional about not hurting the other person, whether it is in terms of how you speak to them, or whether it has to do with how you choose to treat them. This is saying that love is willing to put in the work and the time, and it takes pride in being pure and kind and good, and being good. And that's it. You will make mistakes, you love, but love forgives, and love wants to do better than it did before. So yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I hope that it was valuable. This is definitely where we are ending it. Thank you so much for joining me. I've just spoken so much throughout this entire series. These episodes are over an hour long. Oh, that's a long time. That is a long time. Thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. If you are wanting to put anyone on, please don't forget to let them know that they can listen to A Cupful on all listening platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Castbox, everywhere really. And if they are wanting to test the waters first, you can go on over to TikTok. I post snippets of episodes. The handle is at acupfulll. Have a lovely remainder of this week. Rest when you need to, work when you need to. Take care of yourself and be kind to yourself and be kind to other people. And don't forget to be loving. Don't forget to be good. And most importantly, keep doing the things that fill your cup.